Good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Good.
We're here to talk about advanced lead gen. So we're not going to dive into basic stuff like certain scripts. We're going to talk about what advanced our business in lead gen and what we've done. Early on in my career, I started in 2007. I learned quickly that I have to prospect in lead gen all the time, right? And modern world today, we have so many more tools in front of us and everything we have. I wish I had it then, but back then I was using literally Excel spreadsheet and a flip phone, texting people and doing stuff. And I learned quickly I had to track it and keep moving it forward to actually move everything forward. And Facebook was just basically starting, right? And I connected with some friends that way. So it was just really interesting. But how it's advanced over the years, how we study and what's moving on. It's really about deep diving how we're looking at everything we're doing, right? So I'm Kevin Toll.
I'm Megan Toll.
And we're the Toll Group, right? And thank you for my team showing up. We are out at the contract in the area a lot, right?
There you go. Turn around.
Yep. Just quickly about us. This year, we're going, I think, settle 245 units for 83 million. We increased from last year. We decreased on our units because we started prospecting differently this last year through it all. We started going a little bit higher dollar. Some of the lower dollar volume was we're turning and burning and losing a lot, and there's a lot of turnover. So we actually increased. I am a coach with Bill Pipe's 3G organization as well. I also do have a MAPS coach. I'm currently leaving coaching to talk to someone else to actually look at your business. I have a coach for my team as well, so everyone gets to talk to on a regular basis. And hopefully that anyone's not my team are doing it, please take advantage of it. I do have a CPA background. I have a license. I coach wrestling and judo currently. My son, and I watch my daughter do gymnastics, right?
Yes. So I'm Megan. I got in the business in 2015 full time. After we had our daughter, I was a health and PE teacher and a athletic director. So I taught for 10 years, had my master's degree plus 60. And I decided when we were in Burlington, that would be a great idea to leave the teaching industry and join the family business full time. And here we are. Glad I did it. Definitely learned a ton along the way. And I'm very honored to be able to be standing in front of you teaching, which is still something that I love to do. I am our head listing agent for our team, so I focus on working with sellers of all capacity and in all locations, basically like an hour and 50 from the Conshohocken area. So.
And most importantly, we are parents and husband and wife. So we have 3 beautiful kids and Snuffy, who joins us in the heights as well. She's not on that height.
She wasn't allowed on that height. That's the one with the ropes and ladders and stuff.
So I mean, we will make sure we take crazy adventures. We'll throw them on our backs. We went up a hill this way for 2 hours to get that point up in Maine this year. So we won't stop doing that. It's not whole kids. So like that's most important. We base our whole year off of our trips that we want to take. So we know what we're doing throughout the course of the year and we work potentially around that. All right, let's get into it. So this is a little stole from some social media stuff, right? Yeah. I'm getting a little bit better, but not great. So this is a little slide I saw out there. I'm always trying to get inspiration for myself. Is what we did now a week and a month a year. You constantly have to sharpen your skills. So if we're talking about advanced lead gen, we're doing. We constantly have to focus on what we get because in 3 years from now we're so smooth that we come up and go, "How'd you do that?" I'm like, "Well, we do it all the time." Like. My wife, my kids will see me reading about real estate 24/7, right? I'm constantly getting into it, how to get the team better, everything moving forward. So that's just a little slide that I like. I say these things to my phone all the time. So
well, it's persistent consistency.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a little hard to say, but persistent consistency to get moving forward in that direction.
Sean Krause is here. I texted him yesterday. So it really makes sense, right? And then just we want to get a gauge of just what level you're at right now. So who knows their scripts? I want hands, comments, please. Right? 2 people. So the rest of we need to work on your scripts, right? You should know your scripts. You're in class with me like 3 years ago, right? How long has it been? Wow. Who knows their closes? How many times are you closing in a conversation? Are you trying to set the appointment? Right? You're trying to do 4? Yeah. That's good. There's always more. I'll tell you do 6. Right? Who knows how tonality impacts your conversations? Right? So it's important. If you talk like this, no one's going to want to talk to you. If you're talking too strong or over the person, they're not going to want to talk to you. You have to learn that banter back and forth. And you have to match your personalities, right? So it actually matters. And then who knows what embedded commands are? Both of my team should raise their hand, so they actually did a class. It's very important to learn those embedded commands, because you're gonna control the conversation, they're gonna actually flow with you, right? So this class, we're gonna be talking more fast to basics, and we're gonna be getting into other details. And certain details we're gonna get into just quickly. We only have like 45 minutes to an hour, so we can't really deep dive. Happy to talk about this anytime, right? Want to take us?
So this is just the basics of script mastery. So anytime that you're learning a new script, learning new closes, this is a great guideline of what to do to start to internalize everything that's going on. So it's reading it 10 times a day, writing it, yes, it's missing the W, but writing it at least 1 time a day. So we're starting to bring in all of the different learning styles, so your auditory, your visual, and your kinesthetic.
6 R's.
Yeah.
You dropped the W.
Yeah.
I know I can't spell, but still, it's just for a reason.
Role play, so 15 to 30 minutes a day. You don't want to practice on your clients. That's the worst place to practice. You want to have a script partner, even if it's you standing there in front of the mirror. I know Kevin used to like do the script when he was like in the shower, or I do it when we're just having constant conversations. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You're always role playing. Doesn't have to be the basic script. Anytime you have a conversation that might be tough, you're going to be role playing it before you have that conversation, so you know what to anticipate in it.
And on our team, we constantly have conversation practice. That's what we have to say now, at least twice a week. And every time we start something new or something uncomfortable, it's uncomfortable. People find themselves in Zoom, they run away from it. The more they get into it, the more they're confident, and the more they actually have objections. At first, we're doing very basic and babying everyone. Then it gets deeper and deeper. But having those conversations, I know for a fact there's 2 or 3 people in this room already that said, that helped me get that appointment, and helped me get that listing, because they went through this and they're going through it and now uncomfortableness. Because at first, if you're uncomfortable saying it to people, but then you're like, you're not caring as much. It's like the first time you asked a girl out to date, you're 13, you're like, I don't know what I'm doing here, right? But then, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm married now. It's like it happens, right? So like, that's what happens. You have to actually keep working on it, right? But
Recording it, so recording what you say. We all have these beautiful things that will record everything. You can even videotape yourself doing it, but then you can listen to it over and over again. Really using it, so actually putting it into practice, not just practicing it, writing it, but going out and actually talking with your clients, then reporting back to your coach. How did it work? How did it feel? Is there anything that you needed to change? And then also learning within there, then you get into the NLP and how to change your tone in the conversations when you're going to be adding gestures in it to embed those commands throughout as well.
yeah, reporting back to someone you're actually this mentor, coach, or teammate helps, because you're like, this is what went wrong. Sometimes it's your own mindset. So if your own mind plays games on you, it's all about waking up and being positive, morning affirmations, right? So if you actually sit there and say it went negative, you don't think it did, and then go, oh, it's outcome, it actually went right. So it went right, you're just uncomfortable doing it. So you have to just focus on that and talk to your coach, mentor, anyone else. Am I doing this correctly? Does this sound right? Because the first time you do it, it doesn't feel right. As it goes 1,000 times down, you just say it naturally, right?
And then with scripts as well too, you're going to be memorizing it. You're going to be internalizing it. You're going to I can't say that word correctly.
Compromise. Go for it.
I can't say it. Compartmentalize and then personalize. So the script might be the same basic script. You're going to have to memorize it first. And then you're going to have to internalize it so you can have that conversation and have it so it's free flowing. And then you compartmentalize it into different chunks. And then you personalize the conversation, because we can all have the same script, but it's going to sound a little bit different coming from one person and the other, still with the same end goal in mind.
Yeah, so when you actually have the scripts down or anything you're talking about, then you can start just making your own. You have to have your own personality, your own flair into it, right? But first you gotta learn. So you can't go 1, 2, 3, 4, right? As a kid, like they get all the numbers up. You ever watch a little kid count to 10 and they skip numbers, get them wrong? After a while, they start singing it and getting into it because they made their own little thing. So you have to realize, get into everything you're talking about. And I don't care what conversation it is or what scripts it is, right?
Nope. So we always talk about schedule. We're going to talk a little bit about a higher level schedule. Very basic, everybody should be having a schedule, but then it breaks it down even more when you think about the schedule that you're using, not only the conversations you're having, but then the frequency, the timing of everything. So schedule is not just what's going on day to day or hour to hour, but what are you exactly doing throughout those courses of the communications and the course of the leads as well too.
this is one of the hardest things I think for every realtor in the world is to have a schedule. Because you think something else is the burning fire they have to handle. You're gonna go prospect or do whatever you have to, you leave it, and you never get back to it. So you have to have a schedule and then time block it, and it sounds so easy, but anytime I coach anyone, or anyone I talk to, it's like, I don't have a schedule. Neither do we, because our kids are throwing up last night, but you still have to kind of wake up and rush through, you still have to live that schedule, because it becomes easier, it's like going to the gym. Go to the gym every day, it becomes easier to go to the gym every day, right? At first it sucks, you figure out a schedule that works. And to be honest, we talk about it almost monthly because sports change for kids and other stuff changing, change our schedule. We stick by it. We know the schedule. Kids know the schedule. You get the door at 7:10, so we can do other stuff. So learn your schedule. Right? And for scheduling, it's like how many hours a day are prospecting. Right now in this market, 1 day survival, right? And when we say prospecting, it's not just new leads, old leads. It could be your SOI, just who are you talking to, the conversations, right? 2 hours a day is growth. You want to actually make it this market. Like the market went down 35% this year. You should know that by heart, right? What?
25.
So 25 to 30 went down. So like, are you outpacing your competition or are they just riding the wave down and riding it back up when it comes back up, right? I see it all the time. And 3 hours breakthrough, or you're really trying to do it. I'm not going to tell you to do 3 hours straight. You'll fry your brain, right? You may have a 50-minute session, 20 minutes off, do something else, 50-minute session. Right, knowing the time of day, the prospect is very important. There's 220 working days, supposedly, even though realtors work 24/7, right? You need to map it out. Like I just bought, you ever see the big year map calendars? Just arrived yesterday. So we're gonna map it out. The days we're gonna be intentional, the days we're working. We're gonna actually focus on the days we're working. If we're taking this week off to go somewhere, we're off. You're not gonna talk to us. We did that in Maine this year, I think, for 1 week. That was week we worked up there.
Okay, so in terms of timing, again, focusing on when you should be responding to people. It's not just all hours, but also being very focused on when you're responding to them. I notice every time I talk to Kevin, I'm like, Mondays are horrible prospecting times between this and this. So what I've done, I'm starting to do is shifting my work hours in terms of prospecting. If I know from 9 till 11 on a Monday is horrible because everybody's back to work and answering emails, I'm not trying to call them during that time frame. But if they're answering from 11 to 1 on a Monday, then I'm going to make sure that I'm very intentional at that time making my phone calls. And I've been tracking it for years of when the best time to reach out is, because I'm like, oh, yeah, today's a bad day again. We're the week before Christmas. Nobody wants to answer their phone. I go, it's the holiday week. I'm like, Christmas is still what, 5-6 days away? And like more and more time, I'm like, we can still have these conversations, but you know when you can talk to people and when you can't. And what that conversation might look like as well, too.
You know, the best time to talk to people is the week between Christmas and New Year's. We've been tracking
Absolutely.
this since 2017, like as best we can. And that week, everyone's home, they're happy, they just got gifts, whatever might be going on. And they're happy to set appointments. We, and the team sets more appointments in that week than any other week of the year, right? Now, do they keep the appointments? That's a whole tracking thing, right? Like most will cancel or half will cancel on savings, right? But that goes to the next topic, right?
Yeah.
Tracking. Who tracks their data? I'm a CPA, it drives me nuts that you don't track your stuff, right? I have too many tracking forms. Talk to Joe and Megan about it, right? Like I have too much, but it makes us actually realize what's going on. Tracking is important. We know that we have to actually work that week between Christmas and New Year's because we know we set, 1 year we set 45 appointments between the two of us, 45 appointments between the two of us, and that was 3 days, right? And 75% of them actually kept their appointments that we met, which equaled out to be like a quarter of our business.
Yeah.
So like, it's just important to track your data year after year. You're going to see the trends, right? You're seasonal, COVID screw things up, right? To a point, but you have to track the data. So we're tracking the hours we're actually working, prospecting, or when we're doing data stuff or playing on TikTok. Stop playing TikTok. Our ROI in everything we do. Everything. You can almost ask me a lead source, I'm gonna tell you our ROI, and it changes from year to year, right? So we always talk about you maybe have 5 lead sources, center of influence or sphere of influence is one of them. And I can tell you which are top 3 from year to year to year, and then the 2 that kind of rotate in and out. Time of day, when you connect with people, and actually day of the week, we should have on there. Who we're talking to, what lead source is actually working. Like the third-party sites a couple years ago was great for the team. They're pretty much non-existing now. We track it all the time. Conversion rate with leads and your sphere, right? And then conversion time, like when it enters the database to the time they actually settle. Joe, what was the stat that you just pulled up a couple weeks ago? From the time you talk to someone that came to our database, I mean, you set up it. Wait, and you know the answer, right? I think I remember. Never mind, I know.
Like 3.5 years.
Yeah. 3.5 years was the time someone came in our database, the time they settled. I want to buy or sell a house. 3.5 years later, it finally happened. Everyone thinks it's like a couple months or 18 months. It was. The market's changed. It's 3.5 years now, right? So we know that. So now what we're doing is our database, which has 40,000 leads in it. We're pulling the ones that came in 18 months ago and trying to re-engage them, and people are setting appointments, right? We're calling it Database Revival Act. Because we have all this database that you should be calling. Everyone has their own database. You should be calling it all the time. Yeah, that. Right? And when you're actually, sitting there and moving the needle forward here, there's no results. You have to keep working. There's bad results. You got to keep working. There's great results. You got to keep working. You can't cry the lows and celebrate the highs. You have to keep moving them forward, right? And it's kind of funny when I look at this kind of stuff all the time. You're like, all right, cool. Like, you can celebrate to a point and enjoy it, but if you celebrate too much and you take your foot off the gas and you just kind of go off the bad results, and then you kind of want to do this, cool. There's bad days and everything, right? In our business, wake up, do it again tomorrow, so it doesn't matter. Okay, that's missing there.
No, that's.
Tonality. Tonality is super important, right? How many times has somebody spam called you and you just didn't want to hear them talk? Anyone?
You did.
What?
Give this call to people.
Good. You just hang out with them. So if their tonality sucks, you're not going to be engaged anymore. If they're not projecting their voice and actually want to be in that conversation. I reached out to learn about stuff and they just didn't even want to be in that phone conversation with me. And you're like, cool, thanks, click. I mean, we're trying to buy a Suburban. That's like 70, 90 grand. They don't even talk to us. So I just pick what's here. I'm like, we're going to drive an hour and a half away. Someone actually talk to us an hour and a half on the phone. I don't care. Right? Their tonality sucked. We moved on. Like we all sell stuff. We all sell houses here, right? I hope so. And they sell stuff as well. So like you need to have that correct tonality if they actually want to engage it.
Yeah, tonality also leans into listening to who you're talking to and mirroring and matching the individual that you're having that conversation with. If you're talking to somebody's grandmother who's talking very slowly, you're not going to talk quietly. You're going to project your voice loudly and slowly so they can hear you. So you don't always have that constant conversation. The one thing that Kevin was saying as we were driving down here, it's very much like an actor. You don't have the actor having the same tone and the same script every single movie. Might be some actors out there that do, but most actors, the good ones, they change their tone and their voice to match the character, to match the role that they're playing. So we have to do the same thing with our clients and the people that we're speaking to on the phone. So you have to think of it that way. It's kind of changing the personality each time you pick up the phone and matching the person that you're speaking with.
I think Cass was telling us once that someone called in from, where was that again? Someone called from the South. That's very slow draw. He slowed down talking to them, right? And that actually won the client over more than us being Philadelphia and fast paced, low break through the conversation. So when we're talking about that tonality, I'm thinking you have to mirror match it and actually talk the way they're talking to us. Because if you're trying to just blow through that conversation, they're just going to move on, right? Embedded commands. Can you open that or no?
Yeah, we'll do one question first.
Go for it.
How many of you have heard of embedded commands? Jackie, can you give me an example? Oh. No. You're giving me a great smile. You can call on the audience. I think Sean wants to take a turn. Sean?
When you sell your house, what is a good time of year for that to happen?
Can anyone give you, Joe, can you give me another one?
When we list this home, when is the best time for showing?
So we're using we're assuming we're taking the listing, we're embedding a command. When we do this, we don't have a listing contract signed yet, but when we do something, when is it gonna happen?
I will actually open this up. It's very awkward to learn as you're speaking different, right? You're trying to include the group into it. See, I'm gonna use my hands. We're gonna talk about the physical command as well, but It's just about including the person with you and to say, hey, we're gonna do this together. Like, when I list your house with you, right, we are gonna stage it. And they're like, oh, and they start getting into it, like, who has kids in here, right?
I always use the word let's, like let's list your house today. You know, we put it on the market in 2 days.
Right.
Or we get it on the market in a month, it just depends on who you are. But, I use the word let's also, we're team, let's do this now.
Right.
Let's do this tonight, let's do this tomorrow. Let's meet tonight at 5.
It's an inclusive word. I mean, we want to include them with us. It's a process we're doing together. So you don't want to say, I'm doing this because they feel like you're controlling their house or whatever it is. So on our team, we just started working on it. We're going to keep working it monthly. And it's very awkward when you first started. The G3 coaching required us to take an NLP class. And at first I'm like, this is crazy. But after a while, we had to write sentences every night. Like I wrote 10 sentences every night for five different topics. So here is a huge list of just embedded commands that you want to read a couple of them.
So you probably already know. I wouldn't tell you to because you may, some people, one might, a person may not know if, I'm wondering if you'll or not. I could tell you that, but maybe you haven't yet. It's easy to, is it not? We could go on and read them all. There's just a whole list of different ways to have that. A person could, one may, and then fill in the rest of the sentence.
You can Google this topic and learn a lot about it and work on it, but this is something you have to role play with somebody. So that you're like, yeah, I say that, we don't. Most of us don't naturally do that, right? And it's just different.
It also seems like it's a way to get away from the yes or no response.
Yes.
To actually dive deeper into what they're thinking, forcing them to communicate.
Absolutely.
I know you haven't been on our conversation perhaps as well, on a team, we don't let the team members answer a yes or no question. Right? So we always say, here, rephrase that question. We always work on that. We want them to constantly talk. So you're absolutely correct. And this way makes it's not a yes or no question, and you're including them in the conversation. Right? It's just a big team that you want to actually have.
So go ahead.
And who knows what embedded body commands are?
Basically the idea that they can hear you smiling.
Yeah.
Like, you want to make sure that your body language is accounted. You can have the same conversation with your body language. It's truthfully.
Correct. Who has children here? Right? I'm very like, you want to go to bed tonight? You shake their head like, I think I do. And they start agreeing with you. And you're like, I'm a Jedi Knight. Like, come on, we want to do this, right? And they start thinking about what you're doing, your positive affirmations are actually working. Same thing when you're they can't see your face on the phone. If you're positive, shaking your head, they're like, I do this, like, I'm doing this, we're bringing it in. All these different commands, like embedded body commands, actually work, even over the phone. Because like, if you're smiling on the phone, they hear it smiling. If you're a miserable bitch, right, on the phone, they hear it. They're not going to want to talk to you. So it really does work. So like all the embedded commands that you start doing, it really actually affects the conversation that we have. So like I've talked to a lot of agents, and when I'm having a very positive, upbeat conversation, even though something's going really bad and they're losing a deal, they feel a little bit better when they get off the phone. And then they realize they just lost a deal, and then they're like, shit, what really happened, right? That.
So you've got that. Your example.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know. What I was going to say is, I totally forgot about this. We're all loving this class right now, right? At least everyone laughed.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
I get one head shake, it's great, right?
It's great because we talked about like the difference in having a sales background, like moving into real estate, and then like believe it or not, having like any sort of sales training into real estate, and this is sales training.
Yeah.
Like any basic sales training platform is going to teach you this, and it is so important that a lot of agents don't have that. It's our business.
it's not taught at all in their business, right? I mean, like, no one ever talks about this. I mean, even when it was brought up to me a couple years ago, I'm like, what's this? So we naturally do this stuff because we eventually learn by trial and error. But if you learn this now, it's not trial and error. You're gonna actually have that person feel more engaged. It's also like the body language if you're actually with somebody. So if someone's sitting there in a group and they're crossing their arms, you end up like wait a couple seconds to cross their arms and they get to separate, do this, and they step in, you step in a little bit to listen, right? It really matters. Like I've been on Zoom calls and you say something simple as like, you want to know what the secret is? Do this, and you see people all lean in, like they're hearing something different. And you tell it to them, like, and they all kind of buy into it, right? So like all that kind of stuff does work. So you want to bring them engaged. You want to mirror and match the person. So if I was talking to Meg in a group, I would be doing that right in a second. And then she changed her body gesture. And you just go like that, like a couple seconds afterwards, like, all right, you shake your head. They just follow and they feel more engaged and they start leaning into you. So it really does matter if you start learning this stuff. And it's awkward at first, so we have to do it. And if you take one of those MPL classes, that's one of the assignments. So you have to mimic people the whole week. And you're like just follow you around the gym and see what happens. The biggest thing I've learned by coaching people and talking to people is just the intensity. So when you first get in the business, you're all fired up. You're, I'm going to do anything and everything I can. You're going to prospect for hours and everything. And that intensity is fully there, like the top line, fully there, slowly dips over years, right? And then when you get your foot, like when you get like really acclimated to the business, you kind of take it off and then you kind of take it for granted. One day I'll get into it, one day I won't. Maybe the business will come to me. Biggest thing is the consistency with intensity, right? If you actually can have that time slot that you're whatever you're going to be doing at time and fully focused in it and get it done. My daughter was homesick today and we watched her. She was doing something, it got distracted. Something that could take her 20 minutes takes her an hour and a half. I'm like, can you just sit there and finish it for 40 minutes, right? And get it done. She does. She went there, it's done. We do the same thing with business. Same thing with real estate. We're always worried about everything else going on around us instead of just actually being very intent for that hour, get the stuff done, right? So like me working this class, I actually shut the door one day. I'm like, I need an hour. My first script notes, no one could read. But like I wrote it all down what I want to talk about today, right? Second time I revised it, and third time I did that all in an hour. Then I'm like, all right, cool, we can work on this now. But if I didn't do that, I would never have gotten anything done, right? So you have to be very intent, but intensity of real estate and everyone prospecting is the key thing, right? What's your goals for the day? What's your goal for that hour? Did you make an appointment, whatever it might be? There's many different like tracking groups that you do.
That's Megan's question. How do you keep your intensity? How do you read the system every day? Because
Besides me yelling at you.
Megan is consistent. That's like, how do you do it? What's your key?
So I think it relates to the fact that I love endurance sports. So like my body would allow me, I would go run for 30 miles, but I'm too old now. I've already done that way too many times and my knees just hurt and I don't want to do that. But I'd go hike for 30 hours instead. I'd rather do that. That would be more fun.
And then her knees hurt.
So I think I have that drive that I like the longevity of things. And for prospecting for me, like it's the small thrills for everything. So it's not, you don't get excited over the big victory of yes, we settled, but it's yes, I finally got them on the phone. Because you know it's going to take 5 to 12 times to actually get somebody on the phone. And then the 12th time, they're going to remember who you are. I mean, I was talking to somebody last week that like I had a property, we were talking about photos for properties. And I had an old couple who was retiring from their tree farm in Elverson. It took us 2.5 years to sell their house. Went out there multiple times.
Rephrase that. It didn't take us 2 years to have it on the market, 2.5 years to get it on the market.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, it sold in a day. Absolutely. The house was, everything that we did up into that point. So it's having your list of what you need to do and then being very focused and intent. So I think the one thing, if everybody heard Kevin said, we bought literally a 12-month calendar that's, I don't know, probably half the size of the whiteboard in the back right there, that we're going to literally map out everything. So if I know that I have a 5 or 6 hour day and 3 of those hours need to be prospected, my headset's going to be on and I'm going to be very hyper-focused in what I'm doing. Because when I get home or I pick up the kids and I'm mom, I don't want to have those conversations unless they're scheduled. And that's something that I'm doing. So I'm trying to be very intentional with my time and focused while it's happening and not allowing myself to get distracted. Because one, a settlement's awesome, but it's what's in the pipeline. So, and it's not getting focused on, working hard for 10 weeks and then taking 10 weeks off. Being very focused for a certain period of time taking time off, being able to refresh yourself, and then jumping right back into it. So I think it's a very, it's about getting that inner drive and your why of what you're doing it and putting your life by design.
The one thing she won't say is, you've been in it, what, 8 years now, I said?
Yes.
It started from like, it was a growth, right? You try to add on, so you're not gonna go from the first day she made calls, which was 8 hours, she had like 2 calls, right? It really was like 10 minutes of calls. She went from 10 minutes to actually prospecting to adding 10% to that, so then it went to 11. So it's been a growth over the years, kind of like getting to the gym. So she's been slowly getting to that, understanding intensity, and then we constantly talk about our schedule, right? We talk about work schedule, talk about family schedule, so it became more intense over time. So like, if she's gonna hit 3 hours straight, that muscle of prospecting, getting into it has been growing over the years, that you can't just go from a brand new age to 3 hours into it, because you fry at the end of it. And there's times that she does a 6-hour stint, and I don't know how she does it. She's fried at the end of it, so it's saying she's doing too much, right? So it's been something that's been working on for years.
I mean, just from knowing you guys for the past few years, both of you really understand what your bigger picture is and understand what you need to do each and every day. That's how you guys do it.
So just so everyone knows, Andrew's referring to is, I have it mapped out for 10 and 20 years. Literally. I wrote this how many years ago? 10 years ago?
Mhm.
I wrote something down 10 years ago. Still have it downstairs in our basement, in our home office, mapped out until I'm retired. And we know our steps that we have to get to, and they're not unrealistic steps. We can't go from 83 million in sales to 200 next year. Like, you could, but you're forcing something to happen that may collapse in itself. So I've mapped it out, and we're trying to constantly work on hit the next steps and constantly have that 10%, 20% growth that we need to do. Just stuff we talk about in the team a lot, just the driving focus. The one thing I say a lot is, the 1% a day makes you sort of 36% times better in a year, right? You have to constantly work off yourself and grow off what's going on. You can't expect to go from, doing the 1% a day to 100% a day, right? Just doesn't happen. We're trying to constantly work on what we're doing.
I think it's also, it's where do you want to be in 1 year? Like, when you're in next year at this time, right before the holidays or before the new year, what do you want your life to look differently? Could be something family, could be something physical, could be something with your health, it could be in business. What can you do each and every single day to make yourself 1% better?
Yeah, we're constantly, we're all trying to work on our skills to make them better, right? And hone them in. So we're consistently looking at that, and the market's changed so much in the last 3 years. We're all, I don't know if we've all been in, but like, I know it's been in or not. And 3 years ago to today, different. Like 3 years ago, you're like, just put it on the market. I don't care what it looks like, right? It's going to sell, I promise you. And then, so people like call me up now, going, but I have a certain amount of deals fall apart. And I'm like, well, this is a normal fallout, right? So that's what's happening. So now we have to have deeper conversations with clients. But one exercise my coach Zuber, is the math coach, I told me to do this around Thanksgiving. He goes, list 20 things that you've done this year, right? Doesn't matter if it's personal, family, health, of whatever it might be, right? Whatever it is. 20 things that you've done that improved your life from last year. I think everyone in this room should do that. So I sat there and I combined some stuff together because they all kind of lumped together. But it took me a while to think about what I did, 20 different things I did in the last year. I didn't share with anyone, she hasn't seen it, right? But I wrote it all down. I kept it too. Because next year when I'm at that same around the Thanksgiving time, I'm gonna see like, did I move from that point to this point, right? Because all these small movements year to year, you don't think they add up because you're in it. It's kind of like some guy that's listening to the gym a lot and they gain 10 pounds, I don't really notice it, but you don't see him for 6 months, you're like, you're huge, right? So like, also that those moments need a forward action pattern. Other thing that we talk about a lot is just frequency, right? Listen, someone calls you, need the speed, it still matters even more than ever, right? If someone refers you from a friend, you need to, with proper like etiquette, right? Call them back, right? If you're in the middle of a meeting, you get up and do it. But you need to like, hey, I'm doing stuff right now. Can I call you in 3 hours? You don't want them to reach out to somebody else. You can go online and look up, 1,000 people tagged and split them on. Right, you don't want, so you need to actually move the speed really matters, right? And then if someone calls you, you can't connect. It doesn't matter if it's like an inbound, outbound, that's a referral, your cadence to following up a new lead matters, right? This is the kind of stuff you have to work on. It's not just I called him once or twice, I'll call him next week, maybe we'll connect. It's like whatever you feel comfortable with. We try to call them twice that day and send a text. And then we're gonna do the same thing the next day until we connect with them. They may be like, hey, I'm in business meetings all week, blah, blah, blah. We'll write back, let's set a time now. I'll send you a calendar link to remind you. Next Tuesday at 1, cool, click and we send it. So we're putting it on the calendar. So like the cadence you follow with people matter depending on the situation. So like you have to think about that and hold in each thing. So database is one, SOI is another one. We have inbound calls a different way. We think about each one of them separately. So when you're starting to think about it at a higher level, it's not just one box fits all, right? You have to actually pick and choose the cadence you want to do it. So like, I'm not gonna go through all the different examples, but we use Sierra, we build out most of it. We know what to follow up, it reminds us on a regular basis, right? And engaging the current clients, yeah, engage the temperature of your clients, right? I think I talked about this team meeting, I talk about it a lot, with some kind of like hot or not, like 1 to 12 method. Are they buying the next month? You may have to follow up a lot. Are they buying in 12 months? You may have to follow up like a month, every other month, right? It really depends on how hot they are, or how much they want to talk to you. And other things we tell people is to ask them, how much you want me to communicate with you? You're buying in 6 months, right? If they say, call me 6 months, well, that doesn't fly. Like, sorry, you can't buy a house in 6 months if we're actually talking in 6 months. So you have to actually gauge that. But I'm trying to get everyone to right now, just look at that 1 to 12 method and just say, are you buying in 3 months? Well, I'm going to keep, sending you homes, looking at what I think is important, or like they're going to sell their house. What do we have to start doing to get ready to actually list it March 1st, right? That's pretty much away. So that's what we have to do. We're constantly trying to gauge that, and actually the frequency of what we talk to your clients matters. And since this is a higher level lead gen thing, you should be thinking about that. And then whoever uses whatever CRM system, you should be thinking about, I need to put my notes in here and notes and what I'm doing. Anyway.
Yeah, to kind of go into addition of gauging your client's temperature and asking them how frequently you want to follow up. Even if I have someone who's further out and say they're like a year away from selling their house, I'll be like, okay, you have to have a conversation with them. I listen to what's going on in their background. Is it a good time to talk to them in the morning, or is it better in the afternoon? Kind of, if you start to get to know more about them, what they do in their business or in their life as well too. Because when you call them, you don't want to always get their voicemail. You want to be able to actually have that conversation. So when I'm talking to them, I do confirm the best time to reach back out to them. And right now too, with the holiday touches, it's just having that conversation and great, it seems like, 10 o'clock was a great time to give you a call. Is it okay if I follow up with you in February at 10? Cool, I'll send you a calendar invite right now so we can talk about the holidays and we can talk about the updates that you need to do to keep moving forward. So you're gauging their temperature and figuring out how frequently, but also when to follow up with them in terms of the time of the day. Because I know, you probably raise your hands, if you've reached out to people and you consistently just get their voicemails, have you ever asked them what's the best time to connect with them? If you haven't, if you haven't, you should definitely do that. Because sometimes if I'm calling people, especially with that new lead, and I don't get a hold of them, I'll text them and ask them when's a good time to talk. Most of the time, I'll say 90% of the time, they're going to text me back an exact time and a day of when to call them. Like, perfect, I know when I can get you on the phone. And then if I don't, again, frequency of follow-up.
Send them a counter invite when they tell you, remind them. You'd be surprised how often that works. Until they hit decline, you can say, is that not a good time for you? When it is, right? Then you're actually reminding yourself as it pops up in your phone, even though I missed some of this stuff. Who has a superpower in real estate here? What's your superpower, right? Someone give me an example. What's your superpower in real estate?
Closing.
Close, right? How often do you work on it? Still work on it, right? Oh, yeah. What's your superpower?
Building relationships with.
You work on that every day, right? So one thing I like to say is you should 10x it. You should focus on that and know it, right? But the other thing everyone has to think about is you can't work on your weak ones. You can't have some guy that goes and does a bench press every single day and it's just as big, but that's little chicken legs walking around, right? You have to focus on other skills to enhance your superpower, right? But 10x that, and then work on your weak ones. And then the jobs that aren't producing for you, you find someone else to do it for you, right? We have an admin to do paperwork for us. I hate it at this point. Someone asked me to look at paperwork, I can't do it. And when I sit down to do it, I'm so distracted, I kind of fade away. But the rest of it, like a lot of people have the same issue at this point, right? But you have to focus on your superpowers, and then enhance the weak ones. You have to be working on that on a regular time.
So your messaging matters. You need to be intentional when you're having the conversations, in what you're texting, in what you're emailing, and who you're talking to as well. You can't just send out the same blanket message or have the same call to every single person that you're reaching out to. You need to know how to engage with your different lead sources for your SOI, because otherwise you're not going to get a response back from them. So when you are sending out the message, think about it before you actually put it down and figure out what's going to get a response from someone in a positive manner to keep moving them forward or to gather more information from them.
And it's really get a response, right? Hopefully not a negative response, but a response, right? So right now, you're not gonna, someone that's just bought a house, hey, when I buy a house, right? You can't have everyone has so much automation now that it's lost, right? If you have different messaging that they actually respond, it's better. Like if they just bought a house, it's the message should be like, how's the house? Any issues, right? Like something that's real, that they actually was reply back. It's all great so far. Let me know if anything else. I know contractors, whatever it might be, you get a real engagement, they remember you more. But if you just kind of blanket stuff, it doesn't work too well. So like we've focused over years of different messaging all the time, right? And we take our SOI. So like, but we also work about inbound and outbound. Like we send a lot of mailers out. So it's inbound calls where you take me off your mailer, go screw yourself, or I actually want to talk about it. Cool. Like we know that the other two, we remove them from any kind of list that we ever had. But and then if people have cold calling services, like outbound a different message, right? You can't just force a conversation. So you have to think about the message you're sending to everybody you're doing. And we have, I don't know how many groups in our database now, but we kind of broken it out so we can have like messages together. Like I've been in judo tournaments for years. I have a whole database for judo people. I send a different message for them. They'll get a photo of my son and his gi at a practice, right? And they all love it. And you get responses. That's all I care about. I don't have to ask them about real estate. They'll call me if they have questions, and they all do at this point, right? But you have to have that response. She did soccer. She sent the soccer thing out. She plays soccer, all that kind of stuff. So you have to have the real responses and the real messaging. It's not always about real estate. It's not about buying or selling a house. Sometimes it's just friendly conversation. How you doing? Here's our family. Like picture we have, all our newsletters we have are pictures of our family. Some people care about our dog. We still get emails about our dog, right? Like us, Lumpy's not that old.
Fine.
Yeah, this is- sure.
Cool. So then from having a very intentional message, it's also how are you enhancing that message as well too? So are you adding videos to your text messages? Many times when you're sending out that first new lead and you're sending out a message, most people think it's automated. You send out a video and say, hey, it's Megan here, Toll Group. I just wanted to connect with you about selling your property at 123 Main Street. Let me know when you can talk. You're going to get a response from that person because it's not a computer generated message. It's personal to them. When I'm sending out messages confirming appointments, I'm sending out a video message. Hey, I'm super excited to meet you at your house at 123 Main Street. I'll see you on Thursday at 3. When I show up at Thursday at 3, they already know who I am and what I look like. Like, hey, you're Megan. I'm like, oh, great, you're Bob. I have no clue who they are, but they already feel like they know me because I sent them a video about what's going on. Same thing with, like Kevin said, with our newsletters. We're very intentional with our newsletters. We use the same pattern in terms of the content, but we're always changing up for season and what the kids are doing. People want to know that you're a real human being besides just educating and offering real estate services. Being intentional and with your Popeyes, any meetings that you're holding with individuals, it can't just be the same blanket message to everybody. Because your situation is going to be different from someone else's, and you need to be able to be hyper-focused on that individual to make it matter for them.
So whatever you're doing, just think about how can I make this better, right? How can I make this one message, whatever connection you have, make it better, right? Making it better makes more connections, and that's what happens. The one thing that we talk about in the team a lot is just your focus. So everyone we talk to and coach and everything is like, where can you get most of your business? You should be focused on that. I have a lot of people going, I'm going to start calling expireds. And then all of a sudden they spend like 9% of the time calling expireds where most of the business came from SOI or something else. I go in their business plummets, goes 50% down. I'm like, you just gave up your bread and butter. You should be focused in that, slowly introducing the lead source. I firmly believe you need 3 lead sources. maybe a fourth and fifth that kind of rotate throughout the years. That's all you need. You don't need more than that. So like, if you have 3 main lead sources, you should be tracking it. Like our team SOI is 60 to 70% every year. And then where I'm like constantly like, work on that, add something else, right? So we have to focus your energy where you should be. Don't chase the shiny object out there in the world, right? It's happening to everyone right now. There's always like, they call it an industry disruptor. I'm gonna get in the way. There's another Red X, another this, another that. I'm gonna give you a discount. And all of a sudden you're spending your money and time doing something else that's not getting enough business. In the next couple of years, if there's lack of inventory expired, they're still obsolete in my mind, right? So get to look at what it is. So our top lead sources are SOI, agent referral. I'm very I'm buying right in a second, but like I have it written down. So like you have to know where you're spending your time and money. Present second, right? I think it's that. We're all top agents. Eliminate distractions. We all love helping somebody, it makes us feel good, but the got a minutes will destroy your day. If you're whatever you're focused in, someone comes up, you got a minute, you should be like, I can help you at 2 o'clock, call me. I can do this, I can do that. You got to remove the got a minutes, and they call them success stealers, right? From your day and help them when you have the free time. What do you laugh about? It's the truth, right? And you go, I can call you back at this time. So you really have to focus. So when you're having that hour of focus of what you're doing, make it that hour of focus. Deny people. I call people the team and I had to train them to dump me, right? Don't answer my phone call. Megan, Joe, all people in the team. I'm like, if you're doing stuff, don't answer. People laugh like settlements. I'm like, don't answer the damn call. I got it. Call me back later. What I started doing is texting them. This is what I'm talking about. Like one line. I would forget it. Like 10 hours later, I totally forgot what I was talking about. And I just texted that line. So we rehashed it, got over it really quick. The team started using Slack. Hopefully you can send messages. So you sit down, you can actually have it. It's like if you go to the text messages, I probably have 15, 20 text messages right now, right? And I don't answer them until I have time to do it. So you have to focus on that, right? Give the expertise, help people feel good, right? I believe in mentoring someone, having cohorts that you actually, you talk about real estate and then having someone that you actually follow. It doesn't hurt to help people, but you have to focus on your stuff, right?
Does anyone know how long it takes once you get disrupted to get your focus back into what you were doing and the energy?
Hour, please.
Yes, an hour. Who else? 20 minutes, 15 minutes? Anyone else? Average is 23 minutes to get your focus back and your energy back. Sometimes you never get it back. So if you're not
Like for 3 years.
protecting your time, you're just not gonna end up doing anything. So I know that like for me personally, when I'm in the lead gen, if Kev calls me, I'll dump it. If he texts me 911, I'll stop whatever I'm doing. And it's actually something that's important to have a
I did that
conversation
once.
about.
You didn't answer the phone.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I texted 911 like 10 times.
Bad example. Anyways, I have that like, I kind of hide in the corner in my office and I have my headset on and my Jackie, you walk in, I've got my headset on. I'm in the zone, I'm focused. Once I take those headsets off, okay, cool, we can have that conversation. But even if I'm not on a call and I have my headset on, that's my way of knowing that I need to be focused and in the zone. I know it will take me that long to get back my energy.
I should have had the picture of seeing her work, because she'll have a walking treadmill, 2 monitors, two other monitors down below, a headset on. She's just sitting there doing her stuff. And I took a picture and sent it around once. I was gonna put this, but I didn't. And so she's super focused. So everything else is blocked off. She can't even hear you. She has like the gamer headset on. So it's nice, right? Yeah. And a super advanced lead gen is about having ISAs, right, for outbound and inbound. We're not gonna get that today at all. So that's a totally different conversation. But when you start growing and moving forward, you need someone else to actually help elevate leads to you, right? And to moving it forward. So that's just something we're not going to get into today, right? But that's something that we can talk about in the future. The one thing I've learned since I came to Keller Williams and just everything about business is, you see this, like always keep the door open. Always keep the door open for opportunity, people to talk to, what's going on. It actually is, that's why I'm here, right? I was at Long and Foster for 13 years. I came here because I was talking to Andrew Ferry, John Cleddy, and it's just, you don't know what's going to happen. So always keep the door open, talk to people. You never know what's going to be. there's people in the industry that we, we butted heads from different offices, really, we're friends now. So you just don't know. So just think about it when you're going through this and lead gen, keep the door open for yourself for advancement and also just like your growth in the business, right? You don't know where it's gonna go. You just think. That is the last slide. Any questions, everything we talked about?
I'll just say to put this in action tomorrow, lead generation for all $2, 10 a.m. in Franklin. And that coaching also has a script practice daily call every day at 9:30. They go over a new script every day. So if you want to link to that, just text me, email me.
In Max coaching for the next 2 weeks, I think it already started. They have like 13, 18 free classes every day. So you should jump on that. Some of the stuff that we use to this day, we learned in one of those classes, right? So you should think about it. Just jump on Zoom, listen for an hour. It's actually great. Cool. No questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.